Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast. And this is episode number 56. And this is your first time tuning in. This is a personal development podcast, a business podcast, all into one. And really my goal for this podcast is to empower you guys to live the life that you truly deserve. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, you can tune into our episodes that drop every single Monday of the week. Start your week off right with some positivity and some good information. With all that out the way, we have another guest on today. Just to give you guys a little information about this guest, he's an entrepreneur. He's a director, producer, photographer. He's the CEO of Dope Heart Media. And he probably does a lot of other things that I'm not aware of. He's also an activist. One of the most creative people that I know personally, my bro E.Mackey. How you doing, bro?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? I'm good. I'm good. What's up with you? You forgot Blvck Spades. How you forget Blvck Spades?
Blvck Spades too. And you know what's crazy, man? I got him right here. Look.
Hey, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get into what Blvck Spades in for those of you guys that are listening, but I always keep it on deck. It's just a nice piece to have, like, you know, with my books and all that. Yeah, cool. So, yeah, man, I have a lot of questions for you. I just really want to jump right into it. We can kind of start with your background and you growing up and the young E.Mackey and, you know, where you come from.
Okay, yeah. So sorry about that. It's people like texting and you might hear the ding and the whoop, whoop.
No worries.
But yeah. So I mean, I'm from Miami. I grew up between Miami and a small town outside of Tallahassee, Florida called Monticello. I mean, I don't know. That's where I'm from. I'm a Florida boy, man. I mean, it's so much stuff to say that I think we're gonna get into it. But yeah, so I'm from Miami though.
Cool. So what high school did you go to? High school around there? College?
Yeah. So I went to high school at Carroll City, in Miami.
Gotcha.
Same place where like Rick Ross went to high school. Like a lot of different celebrities. If I'm not mistaken, I think Flo Rida went to high school there. A lot of like celebrities went to Carroll City. And then I went to college. I started at Albany State in Georgia, at HBCU, Albany State.
Nice.
And ended up transferring to school in Tallahassee where, you know, I went to Florida State for my undergrad and then got my master's degree from Full Sail in Orlando.
Got you. Was entrepreneurship on your mind as a teenager or in high school, college? Was that something that you were interested in, business?
Yeah, definitely. When I was in high school, I graduated high school in 2002. So around that time is when like CD burners had just hit the consumer market. So I was actually the CD man in high school. Me and my homeboy was a CD man. So like I remember selling CDs and coming home with like $250 a day. And like at 17, that's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of money for a lot of adults right now. I was making like consistently like $250 a day, selling CDs for like $3 and $5 a piece. So that was when I was in high school, and then I also used to design shirts, like paint on shirts, which is something that I did throughout college because I was on a baseball scholarship in Albany State. So I couldn't work. So that was how I made my money. And that eventually turned into me changing my major in college from engineering to fashion design. So then I ended up getting my undergrad degree in fashion design from Florida State. So, yeah.
What type of CDs were you burning? Who were the artists?
I remember I was doing mostly mixed CDs because at that time,
I got you.
At that time, we were using LimeWire. I think Napster just got shut down. So then we were using LimeWire, and then I think LimeWire was getting wonky. So then we were using some other type of torrent site.
Yeah.
And basically, I would just go to school, and then people would say, like, they would give me the list, the mixtape list that they would want. So then I'd go home and download the songs, and then put it on the CD for them, like custom make them. And then there were also some like mixed CDs that we would make that were just like the popular music at the time. So I remember 50 Cent was just coming out. I remember the Nappy Heads, like Robbery was coming out. Like a lot of, it was a lot of like local to Florida music that we put on there too. Cause it was Miami. So Miami had its own like market and sound. So a lot of that music was people wanting to hear Miami artists.
Yeah, man, I definitely remember. I'm a little bit younger than you, but I definitely remember LimeWire. Rest in peace to a couple computers.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So,
yeah. The big thing when I was younger was Napster, but you know, they shut Napster down real quick. So then you had LimeWire and other things that came up. But
dope. So you got your degree in fashion design, and I was reading that you kind of ventured into the music and the fashion industry. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I went to Albany State, like I said, I was on a baseball scholarship. My next door neighbor, who's actually my business partner now for Blvck Spades, he used to always leave his door open in the dorms. So like people would just congregate in his room. And so when I say next door neighbor, I meant like next room in the dorm.
Right.
And so one day I went over, I sat down, I just walked in and started talking. I ain't really know him. I just walked in and started talking, sat down and vibed with everybody that was in there. And then we became like kind of quick friends. And so one day he was making beats on Fruity Loops. And this is like when Fruity Loops was like Fruity Loops was probably just coming out. And so I had always enjoyed music and I had always rapped, and I never had beats. I would record my lyrics over the top of like actual songs. So when I saw him making beats, I asked him like what it was he was doing, and then I got like a bootleg version of Fruity Loops, and I started making beats. And so over the years, over the next, like I say, 5-6 years, I kind of got good at it. Then I kind of got into music, and by the time I was in Tallahassee making music, my philosophy was if I start designing clothes for these DJs, then I could build a relationship with them and kind of get my music played. Well, fast forward, and I got really popular and really known in Tallahassee on the music and the fashion scene because I was doing big fashion shows and my music was on the radio and all that type of stuff. And so one thing was kind of propelling the other thing. Like I would do fashion shows so that I have an event that I control, like it was my thing. So you had to play whatever I said play. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it was just kind of one thing kind of, feeding the other thing.
And how long did that last?
So my music career, the thing about a music career, an independent music career, especially like as a rapper, particularly in that time, was that you could be very, very known and very, very popular and very, very broke. And so that was me. You know what I mean? Like I had music that was being played on the radio. I had some club spins. Like the music was kind of picking up, but it was just so expensive to try to keep up that life. And also like get bills paid at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So it also was like an issue of, it wasn't really my personality to be up in the club and like have females twerking, and like it just wasn't really my style. You know what I mean? And I felt like I kept pretending at something. So my music career was pretty much from, I'd say 2006 to 2012-ish. And I ended it because I had put out a song, which actually became my biggest song. I'm still making money from it, called Twerk. And Bad Girls Club had used it as like their theme music, the TV show. And just when I saw how people were like responding to the song, people were sending me videos of them twerking, which was cool. But then I started getting videos that people would send me of little girls twerking, like little girls, like 13-year-olds. And I'm like, yo, no, like this isn't what I signed up for. So I kind of felt bad. And I was like, I felt as if I was contributing to like the degradation of the culture. And I was like, I don't want it like this. So then I like I just quit music because I was like, nah.
Yeah. So one question on that: when you first got into the music, obviously you were doing it because the love that you
Mhm.
had initially for the music, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and
For sure.
I may make more music in the future. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, initially it was like for the love. Like I remember being like 6 years old or something and getting like a Walkman
Mm-hmm.
for Christmas. And man, like my family hated that they brought me that because I never didn't have on headphones. Like they
Mm.
were annoyed because they would try to talk to me. I was like, I'm always had my headphones on and they hated it. So I mean, I was always into music. And so as I got older and got into like Pastor Troy, because Pastor Troy was hot when I was in high school, and like all these other Southern artists that I like really, really admire, I just really wanted to rap. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so at first it was for the love, but when I saw that, at that time music wasn't what it is now, where you could
Mm-hmm.
experiment and do different things, and like, you know, technology wasn't where it is right now, where you could like really craft and create your own sound and
Right.
like get it out to the world as easily. Music wasn't quite the same back then, so, or the industry wasn't quite the same back then, so it was a lot of me feeling like I had to be somebody that I wasn't for my
Mm.
music to be accepted and to get to the right audience. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Was your family like pretty supportive with you going in that direction? Because you tell your mom, your dad, I want to be a rapper, and they're just looking at you
mhm.
sideways. So how did your
well,
family take that?
so I didn't really. My childhood was complicated, so I didn't grow up with my mom or dad really. I kind of
Gotcha.
bounced around from place to place. And so for the most part, I've always been pretty independent. So I was able to do whatever it was I wanted to do. Like
Yeah.
it was never, there was never anybody in my life that was that could really tell me what to do,
What to
if
do?
that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course I had some family that was like, oh, have a backup, have a backup. But by the time I got to adulthood, they knew who I was and they knew that I was gonna do what I was gonna do anyway.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, for the most part, people were supportive though, to the
Mm-hmm.
to the point that they stopped calling me Glenn, which is what my family calls me by my middle name, and they started calling me E.Mackey. So it was like, you know,
Wow.
yeah.
So
So
your music career is wrapping up. You're probably thinking about what's the next thing that I got to do. I got to survive. I got to pay bills. Is this where Dope Heart Media comes into play, or what happens after the rap
kind
career?
of.
Kind of.
So what happened was, I was making the music. Music was like my main thing, and what happened was, I ended up getting a job in a club on South Beach called Club Play. And I was a marketing director of Club Play. At the time, Club Play was like one of the elite, like
Mm-hmm.
must go to club spots on South Beach on a Friday night. It was like Friday you at Play, period. Everybody know about Live on Sundays. It was Play on Fridays. So
Mm-hmm.
I was a marketing director there. And well, actually, let me back up. What happened with the music and fashion was that, remember I was telling you I was very broke at the time that I was doing this stuff, but I was doing major things like big, huge fashion shows. Like I was doing major things. You would never know that I was broke. And so what happened was I couldn't really afford to pay people for graphic design or photography or anything like that. And then when I was paying people to do it, I was getting my work back so late that it was like, yo, I can't really do nothing with it. So I started doing it myself. So I started designing
Mm-hmm.
myself, and I ended up creating my own videos and everything, because I was like, I need to be able to move when I need to move, and I need to be able to do it like inexpensively. So anyway, I got this job at Club Play. While I was there, part of my responsibility was to make sure that, because at the club it was like 60 like screens all over the club, projectors and all this. And so my job was partially to make sure that we always had ads on there, but I also had to cut the ads. And so what ended up happening was, when I left that job, a lot of the brands like Remy Martin and like the liquor
Mm-hmm.
companies still wanted video content. So they would call me and ask me, could I make videos for them? But I didn't have a camera. So I would hire other people to shoot the video, and then I would take the raw footage and I would cut it together and then send it to the clients. And so at that time I wasn't making, like, I was charging like $200 a video. Like, it was very, very cheap. But then the videographer was charging me $150 to shoot. So I'm like, dang, this don't make sense. I'm only making $50. So I borrowed like $900 from my aunt, got a cheap camera, started shooting my own stuff, and I was off to the races from there.
Oh, wow. I mean, when a company like Remy Martin comes to you, what makes you charge them only $200? Like, what was your?
Well, because at the time, the Remy Martin relationship had already been built, because I'm the marketing director of like one of the hottest clubs on South Beach. You know what I'm saying? So I already had a relationship with these brands. By me being new to the game, I didn't know what the market value was for this stuff.
Got you.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. $200 just seemed like a lot of money for a video to me at the time. And like now I wouldn't even answer your call. But you know, at the time it sounded like a lot of money, you know, and it sounded, you know, $200 I'm gonna go, you know, because my logic was I'm gonna go to your event for like 2 hours and I'm not doing anything, the videographer shooting it, and I'm just gonna edit for however many hours. So to me, $200 sounded right. So yeah, it was just because I was new and didn't really know. Trying to figure it out.
So you're learning how to edit. You're learning about you know, you said graphic design or
yeah, graphic design. So I had pretty much mastered graphic design by this point. And I was pretty solid with video editing too. I was learning how to shoot at that time.
So at this point now you're like, well, I can probably just do this myself.
Yeah.
Do everything myself.
Well, yeah, it really came, like, everything that I do pretty much came from necessity. At least at that point, everything that I was doing, everything I had my hands in came from necessity. Like, I didn't just wake up and say, oh man, I want to buy a camera and just shoot it or I didn't think that. It was, I'm making music, I'm doing fashion shows, and I don't have the money to pay somebody to make my flyers. So then I made my own flyers. I started making my own. It was, man, I need photography or I need video. Or what it was somebody had video recorded had shot one of my fashion shows that I did. It was a huge show. I put it together at the Civic Center in Tallahassee. The show had costed like $28,000 to put together. It was like 1,500 people that came. So it was a monstrous, epic show. And so he shot the event, but then a year later, I still hadn't had the video. And so what happened was I caught up with him like that year later, and I'm like, yo, man, if you still got that footage, can you just give me the footage and I'll just figure out how to edit it myself? And so he gave me the footage, and I cut it together. He showed me how to use what was it? He showed me how to use Final Cut. And so I started cutting the video together, and he was like, oh man, you're learning how to do this in minutes, what it takes me months to teach somebody else. But it was easy to me because it was almost like putting together a beat, like almost the same idea of sequencing
Very
a beat.
True. Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, this is easy. So, you know, I learned these things just because like it was a necessity. So
yeah, you had to.
I started shooting, because it was a necessity that I can't afford to keep paying people $150 when I'm only making $200. It didn't make sense, you know?
Right. So now transitioning into Dope Heart Media, you want to talk about, you know, what that is and, you know, what really made you start it. Obviously you need it. It seems like you're doing everything out of necessity. So you're probably like, hey, I'm doing all these things myself. So why not probably start a business and I can start offering these services to companies?
Well, yeah. So the business wasn't really a conscious decision. It kind of happened on its own. So like I was saying, I had built the name with music and fashion in Tallahassee. And so when I moved back down to Miami after graduation, being in that club setting and being like having a type of personality that I have, I continued to build relationships, you know, and a lot of those relationships from Tallahassee kind of transferred down. So what ended up happening was I was in a unique position where, as a novice creative, well, I've always been a creative, but as a novice creative in like the video space and graphic design space, I was blessed to be able to have big clients like Remy Martin, like out the gate. You know what I mean? So what happened was I had all these celebrities and like different brands and everybody that needed content, and they all had a relationship with me. So they were all coming to me. So over time, I realized like, oh crap, like, and I was doing it because I was just hustling to just try to keep bills paid. It wasn't like a conscious business thing. It's just that one day I look back and I'm like, oh shoot, everybody's asking me, or everybody's paying me to do these things that I was doing for myself for free, you know, out of necessity. So maybe this is something that I should pursue. And so around that time was when I was kind of having that sick feeling to my stomach about, you know, twerk and like what twerk was doing. So then I decided, you know, maybe I need to put music on pause and focus on this video stuff, because people were flying me out places to do video at this point. So I'm like, man, I'm making money and I'm traveling and I'm seeing all this different stuff. You know what I mean? So I was like, I might as well just pursue this right now and get my money right and then come back to music. But by the time my money got right from the video and photography side, I was like, man, I wasn't thinking about music anymore, because like it was doing so well that it was like it didn't make sense.
So what, besides like some of the liquor companies, what were some of the companies that you got the chance to work with?
Oh man, I've worked with Remy Martin. My chair. I've worked with Remy Martin, Hennessy, Dove, Toyota, Mercedes, Twitter, Google, Amazon. I know it's somebody, Essence Magazine. I know it's some other brands that I'm not thinking of, but I've worked with like a gazillion.
Man, those are huge brands. So you obviously got in contact with all those people based on the relationships you built, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, you know, with bringing entrepreneurs on the podcast, that's one of the biggest things I've been learning is relationships are literally everything. It's unbelievable, you know, just, you know, having people on the podcast and, you know, one person leads them to an opportunity, a door, you know, so relationships is crucial in business.
Exactly. Relationships are, to me, the most important thing, because I think the problem that a lot of people run into, or the flawed perception of business that a lot of people have, is that people keep making it about money. Yeah. The thing is, if you come to me for a job, right, or for a project that you want done, and I pay you or you pay me, and that's it, the transaction's over. You know, you've given me the service, I've given you the money, or vice versa. Transaction's over. Like, that's it. You are going to go spend that money and that's it. Whereas if we come together and we build a relationship, that relationship is always there, and that relationship can be leveraged to make more money. You know what I mean? Yeah. So prime example is, if I have a relationship with you and you know what it is that I do and you respect what it is that I do, as you go out and you're building your name and your brand, you're going to interact with people that need what I have to offer. You know what I'm saying? And Absolutely. So you'll be bringing back leads to me that you're making while I'm sleeping. You know what I'm saying? Or while I'm out doing something else, you out at an event or a party, you meet somebody and they're like, oh yeah, man, I'm working on this. You're like, oh, I got a boy that does that. And then you connect it. And then a lot of times the way that you really work the relationships is you find ways of connecting people when there's no benefit for you, or when there is a benefit for you, you know? So for example, I haven't told anybody this, so you're the first person I'm telling this. I'm thinking about doing a mural or a memorial in Atlanta that'll travel, kind of like the one that was just in Texas, where it's like the say their names thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, you know what, that'll be dope to do in Atlanta. And I have all these corporate relationships, you know what I'm
Wow.
saying? Where it would be easy for me to pick up the phone and be like, hey, you know what? I'm planning on doing this thing. How can I get y'all to donate some dollars or like use some,
Mm-hmm.
So those
Yeah,
relationships are
absolutely.
valuable because a relationship is a currency that you can spend that's so much more valuable than money. So that, like earlier I was saying how I was doing all these big things and nobody would know that I was broke. I was able to do them because I had relationships.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I didn't need to have money because I knew people that had the money. And the people that had the money knew my work ethic and what I could do. So when I came with an idea and I'm like, yo, I want to do this, they were on it because they could see how, whatever that idea was that I did could be leveraged into some type of profit on their side. So
Wow.
definitely relationships.
Wow, that's amazing. So within Dope Heart Media, what's one of your favorite projects that you got the chance to work on?
Favorite project, man.
I know you probably have a
Um,
lot. You worked with a lot of big companies, but what's one that maybe stood out to you? Um, maybe it
um,
was maybe something that was challenging for you, but you got over it, and
it's
you know
all,
you were you're like
man,
all
it's
of
all
them.
challenges. It's all varying levels of challenges because you're working with people that are not necessarily creative.
Mm,
A client that I can say is one of my favorite clients is Twitter, because like Twitter, it's almost like it's almost like I'm a Twitter employee almost. Like I can go
mm.
to the Twitter office in San Francisco or New York. Like if I'm in San Francisco or New York, I could hit somebody up and be like, yo, I'm in town. I want to come by the office, and they'll just buzz me up. You know what I mean? But I really enjoy working with Twitter because Twitter, it's Twitter, number one. And then number two is like I have such a great relationship with them and they trust me so much and I understand the brand so much and I'm pretty much giving free reign to just create. Like they'll say,
Mm.
hey, we need XYZ. And then I just go find whatever the XYZ is and I'm free to create within those parameters. Um, Another client that I really, really, really enjoyed working with was one called Hornblower Cruises and Events. It's like a charter cruise company
Mm-hmm.
and they have ports like all over the country. So you go there and like do a dinner cruise or something like that. And so I've created like hundreds of videos for them. And
Wow.
it's just I really enjoyed working with them because working with them meant that I was going on the free cruise. I was going to eat as much as I want and I was
There
going to
you
drink as
go.
much as I want. And that was another situation where like the people that I worked with were just so cool. And I had a really good degree of autonomy when it came to like what I could create. Whereas a lot of clients, they try to like maneuver your hand. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. And those of you that don't know, the Beautiful Struggle podcast logo was created by E.Mackey. So appreciate you
Hey,
for that, bro.
hey, no problem, no problem.
Little plug. So, transitioning into something that I really wanted to talk about, Blvck Spades.
Mm-hmm,
So you're at Dope Heart Media.
mm-hmm.
What you're super creative. What made you want to go into playing cards and go into that space and talk about your philosophy behind creating the cards and whatnot?
Well, so with Blvck Spades, what happened was, so I had the creative agency, and the problem with the creative agency, or a problem that a lot of creators face, is that you'll have big clients like this and you'll get paid crazy money, but a lot of times there's so many gaps in when you get paid that by the
Oh
time
yeah,
you make the money, you're paying old bills. So like
right.
it's not uncommon for me to get a call and work for 4 or 5 hours and that's a $10,000 call. That's not uncommon. But what the problem is, you get those calls maybe once every couple months or once every few months. So by the time you get that call, you're already behind on your rent, you're behind on your car
Mm.
payment, you're behind on this, you're behind on that. You're
Were you a
active
one man team?
for a long time I was. I'm not
Gotcha.
now, but for a long time I was. And so you know, you have all these bills that's piled up. So that $10,000 is looking real 5,000 ish real quick by the time you pay all the old stuff. And then on top of that, you're constantly evolving and needing things, right? So you're not doing this type of work for these brands without having the type of equipment that you need to do those types of jobs. Right. So then you're spending like thousands and thousands of dollars on equipment. So it's just like running dope part was cool, but it was just like constant work and constant picking up, like catching up. So I wanted to figure out, I was like, there has to be something that I could do one time and just get paid from it. And so I couldn't think of what it would be. I was like, you know what? I know how God works with me. I'm putting it out there that this is what I want. Like I want to be able to create something and do it once and just forget about it and still make money. But I don't know what that's going to be. I'm going to let God take care of it. And so maybe like a few weeks later, maybe a month later, I was watching a YouTube video and they were describing how to do this mathematical concept using a deck of cards. And the cards were so dope. They were like holographic cards. And I remember looking at it like, yo, those cards are dope. And then it clicked. It was like, oh, that's what I could do. I could make a deck of cards. I'm a designer. It ain't like it's going to be so hard to design a deck of cards. And I'm pretty sure that manufacturing a deck of cards is cheap. I thought it was. So, you know, that's pretty much where the idea came from is I saw those cards and I was like, oh, I can design a deck of cards. That's nothing. But over the next like few days, I was just like, well, what can I do to make people want to buy my cards though? Like what would be special?
And what year was this?
What
year was this?
This was December, like end of December 2018, January 2019.
Got you.
And so one day it just clicked. I was like, oh, I'm Black. We play spades. And I was like, there are no decks of cards that are designed for spades. So I started thinking about it and I'm like, well, what problems can I solve with my deck? And I was like, okay, people always argue about the big joker and little joker. I can label it. People are always arguing about, you know, which rules are the like right rules to play. So I could standardize a set of rules. I thought about the fact that a lot of people don't know how to play. And I'm like, oh, I can design the cards in a way that helps people learn how to play. And so I was just thinking of all these problems I could solve with the deck. And then just once I was happy with, and I couldn't think of any more problems, that's kind of how it happened. Like I incorporated it into the design of the deck.
Before you continue, I love what you said. You said when you were thinking about the product and thinking about creating it, you thought about what problems can you solve? And a lot of people go into business, they're like, hey, I'm going to create this product. I'm going to sell this product. And it's almost like I just want to sell it and I want people to buy it. But they're not thinking about what you could do for the customer. What are you solving? What are you doing for them? What's going to make them buy that product? And I love how you probably had a whole list of problems that you were looking to solve with just a deck of cards.
Yeah. It was a lot of problems. Like, and you know, like one problem, you get a deck of cards, you playing spades. The first thing that you're going to do is write big and little on the card. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why are we writing on the cards? That doesn't make sense. And then when I thought about it, I was like, obviously, white America does not understand how major spades is in Black culture, because if they did, they would have been did this. So now I was like, I have this idea, I better jump on it now. So, you know, like I said, I just thought about the problems and I'm like, you know, thought about arguments that people have. And I'm like, I could solve all these arguments. You know what I mean? And the biggest issue, which is a segment of the community that doesn't know how to play and they feel ashamed by it. So I'm like, nah, none of that. I'm gonna make sure everybody knows. So yeah, when you solve a problem, that's your ticket to making money. And I can do you one better that I've learned that I've never heard anybody say is, if you start a business and you start a business that helps other people make money, you'll always have money. If your business is a business that is in the business of making somebody else money, you will always have money. So if a business needs what you have to offer for them to make money, you'll always be straight, because people will always spend money to make money. You know what I mean? So that's something that you might want to, think about as a listener, I guess, is that if you can create something that where what you create makes people money, you'll be straight. So prime example, you're doing the podcast, you needed a mic. You know what I'm saying? The only reason why mics would be in existence, the only reason why people would make mics is because there are people out there that need mics to make money doing what they do. You know what I'm saying? A MacBook can be $3,000 because the people that's buying a $3,000 laptop are using it to make money. So if what you do makes people money, you'll be extra straight.
Sheesh. That's dope. So circling back to you having the concept and you're writing down the problems that you can potentially solve, and you can design the deck of cards, what's the next step that you take?
In the creation of the company process, you mean?
Yeah. Just because if I'm not mistaken, you guys were on Kickstarter.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened is, for me, I had the idea.
I'm just curious of the progression of like, okay, the idea to executing. Did you have people on that joined the team? Did you guys have to? Obviously, you guys had to raise money. What did that look like?
So at this point, there wasn't a you guys. It was just me. So so like I said, once again about relationships, I had this major idea, but I didn't have the money. So what I did was I was gonna raise the money. I needed like $8,000. At the time, I thought I needed $8,000. It turned out to be way more, but I needed $8,000, and I was confident in my ability to get $8,000. That wasn't the issue. The issue was being able to get $8,000 and still pay all my bills. And so one day I went on Facebook and I was like, I made a status that was like, I wish I could put my bills on pause so that I could spend my money on this idea that I have. And when I put it up, my status got flooded. People were like, I'll invest. I didn't even say what the idea was, but people was like, I'll invest. And I'm like, okay, cool. But this goes back to what I was saying about relationships, is when you have those relationships, it's the currency, man, that's so much more valuable than money, because people know who you are and what you do, and they want to get behind the support. And so Zane, my business partner, was one of the people that had commented, but Zane is one of my best friends. Remember, this was a guy whose room I went into from the dorm like freshman year. So Zane had a direct line of access. He just picked the phone up and called. And so when he called me, he was like, well, what's going on? I told him the idea. And he was like, well, how much you need? And I was like, man, about $8,000. And he was like, I could do that. And I was like, wait, what? And so he was like, 8,000? Yeah, I got 8,000. I was like, so you just got $8,000 disposable that you could just put towards something. He was like, well, I mean, I have more than that, but yeah. And so he was like, do I need to give it to you all at once, or can I break it up? I was like, oh no, actually 8,000 is a total that I need, because I need to pay for this, I need to pay for that, I need to pay for that. So it can be done in chunks. So he was like, oh yeah, that's easy then, yeah. And so he was just gonna like give me the money, and obviously like invest and get a return. And I was like, nah, man. Like at that point, Blvck Spades was just an idea. I didn't have anything done. I didn't have any illustrations. I had nothing. It was just the idea, and I felt like that's a lot of money just for an idea that may not work. And so I was like, I want to give you some equity since you are putting up this much money. So at that point, I was like, I'm going to give you 49% of the company for this $8,000. And so we took the $8,000. We had already had everything manufactured before we did the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter, I didn't use the Kickstarter to raise money for the creation of the cards. The Kickstarter was used as a marketing tactic. So I was like, you know what? If we do a Kickstarter campaign, it's a higher propensity that a blog or news outlet or something is going to pick it up, right, and then talk about us and get us more attention. Then I also knew that if we design the campaign just right, that we could hit the algorithm and actually let it spread through Kickstarter. So Kickstarter was actually something that we did as a marketing strategy, and it just worked way better than what I imagined it to work. And then we made a ton of money with it.
So, after Kickstarter, what was the next step after that?
So
what was the next, I guess, plan of action to scale the business, or take it to the next level?
Well, so what happened with the Kickstarter campaign is inherent in the creation of the Kickstarter campaign was the need to produce more products. So, at Kickstarter, you have different levels.
Yep.
And so we needed to create something to make the other levels, because going into Kickstarter, all we had was the one Blvck Spades deck, the one that you have.
Yep.
But as we started going into the Kickstarter, I was trying to think of, okay, well, what incentives can we give people to donate more money? So that led to the creation of like the gift set, the posters, and also 2 other decks, the red and the white deck. So, once we saw how well the Kickstarter was doing, we were like, oh man, we can create 2 more decks. Excuse me, we can do like all these different things. And so the Kickstarter campaign actually broadened our product offering, just because we needed more stuff to get, people to donate more money. So when the campaign was over, we now had this whole like line of products.
Mm-hmm.
And by this time, it was getting popular on Instagram.
Yep.
Shade Room had posted about it. So we were getting all these like floods of people, and people started saying, well, do y'all have t-shirts? And I wasn't going to do t-shirts because I thought it was corny. And so many people were asking for t-shirts, and I was like, maybe we should probably do some t-shirts.
Right.
So, I had already had a Cricut, like a cutter, that my mom like was just hounding me. You need to get it. And then, so I was like, let's just buy a heat press. So then we bought the heat press, started doing our own shirts. People started buying shirts. People really started buying hoodies. And then I was like, whoa. So it kind of just progressed on its own. During the same time, I had started negotiations with Amazon about creating some content for them. And so in the middle of those talks about creating the content for them, well, I had put in a few bids that got rejected. And so in the middle of like trying to work on another bid for another thing to create content at Afrotech, my point of contact at Amazon was following me on my social media. And she was familiar with Blvck Spades. She's Afro-Latina. And so she was like an avid spades player. So she was like, you know what, Mackey? I love your video, your creation stuff, but I can get anybody to do that. I can't get anybody to do these cards. What do you think about us collaborating, like you doing a collaboration with Amazon where you guys create all of our swag for Afrotech? And I was like, yeah. So wow. Amazon, we create a specially made Amazon deck, which turned into our limited edition deck. And so since it was Amazon, they were like, are you on the platform? And we were like, nah. And so they're like, you might want to get on the platform. So we got on the platform and originally offered our limited edition deck only on Amazon. And like the moment, like the first week we were on Amazon, we made like $7,000. And so I was like, oh shoot. So it like the progression of the brand really just came like organically. It was like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another.
Wow. So is it, I know, was it put on pause for a second?
Oh,
Blvck
okay.
Spades?
No. So Blvck Spades wasn't put on pause. It was paused, but it wasn't like put on pause. What happened was, remember, Blvck Spades came up with the idea into December 2018 into January 2019. We became a company, legit company, on April 10th is when we got our registration stuff back. We had our launch, official launch, where people started getting product, or the Kickstarter launch was July 1st. So people started getting products, I think in like August or September. Afrotech was in November. So we were still like super new. So November, you're coming into Christmas. We cleaned up during Christmas. So by the time we got around to like December, we were consistently making like 15,000 a month with Blvck Spades. So by Christmas, we had sold out of pretty much everything. Like we had sold out. Fortunately, I forecasted we're going to probably be selling out. So we need to get more decks. So at the time we were ordering decks to like 1,000 at a time. So I was like, nah, we're going to have to do more. So we got like 8,000 decks manufactured, or we started the process, and we started processing like October-ish of getting those decks manufactured, because we knew that coming around Christmas is going to be a big push for all these companies trying to get inventory. And then we were aware of Chinese New Year. What we weren't aware of, and nobody was aware of at the time, was COVID-19. So what happened was, in January, when our shipment was supposed to come to us, they were supposed to be shipping it out before the start of Chinese New Year. China had already shut down. So we had like 8,000 decks with that manufacturer, and we had another 2,000 decks with another manufacturer. So we had 10,000 decks in total that we couldn't get our hands on because China was shut down. So we had went like so many months without any inventory. So it would look like a pause. I mean, we didn't pause. We didn't have any inventory, and we couldn't get it because China was shut down. By the time China started to open up, because China started opening up as we started shutting down in America, by the time that this hat came through, we had enough inventory to kind of stay afloat a little bit, but it wasn't 15 grand a month inventory. And so we still had the same bills coming every month as when we were making that type of money. So by the time China opened up, we didn't have the money to get our inventory. Like we didn't have 15, I think it was close to like between 15 and 20,000 that we needed to get our inventory back to the States. And so by that time, we simply did not have the money. Like we were out of money. And so I think what happened was a combination of the PPE loan and Zane like charging up his credit cards. We were able to get our inventory, and then we kind of came back. So kind of, but we're not full steam yet because I'm working on the book. So like one thing at a time.
Yeah, so we can start to transition to the book and whatnot. So COVID hits, you guys are light on inventory. There's a lot of things that are going on in America, and social injustice and whatnot. Do you want to talk about the start of you documenting and you becoming this activist in the community?
Yeah, so the activism part started with when Ahmaud Arbery got killed. So,
and by the way, if I can say this, not to cut you off, you've been doing a phenomenal job. I know you're going to talk more into it, but you've been doing a phenomenal job of just documenting of what's transpiring in America. With the protests, the riots. You've been going to memorial services. You've been capturing some powerful images. Every time I look at your Instagram page, man, it evokes different types of emotions for me. Sometimes, wow, and I'm not gonna even lie, man. Like sometimes I'll look at your Instagram page and it's like I said, it evokes emotions. Sometimes like I get a little teary eyed because of what's going on and some of the things that you've been capturing. But yeah, man, I just wanted to say that, I definitely appreciate you doing that. Like, I'm super proud of you, and like, it's just amazing. I'm always sending it to people like, yo, hey, my boy out there, so, it's just, what you're doing is amazing. Like I said, you're going to go ahead and speak more about it and, with the start of it and everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like as a black man, you know what I'm saying? Or as black men, we know, we already knew what time it was. We didn't need George Floyd to die. You know what I mean? To understand like the challenges that you know what I'm saying, that we face, and like some of the craziness that we go through. And so I had gotten to a point where I just didn't want to see no videos. You know, I would hear about a black person getting killed, and I'd be like, look, I don't even care. Like, and it wasn't that I didn't care. It was that I couldn't care. I was like, I don't want to see the video. I don't want to hear the story. I don't even want to click on this. I don't even want to see it, because I'm going to see it. I'm going to get upset. The cop is not going to get fired. The cop is not going to get charged. If they do get fired or do get charged, they're going to be acquitted. And it's just like, it's open season on this. So I got to a point where I was just numb, and I just didn't even want to deal with it. I was blocking it out. And so, you know, we got COVID-19. Everybody's trapped in the house. Ain't nothing else that you can do. One day I went to Walmart, and I had been avoiding the Ahmaud Arbery video all day. I was like, I was trying not to click on it. I was trying not to see it. And so I had got home, and it was one of those days where, you know how you come home, you just sit in the car, you just don't get out the car. Like, I had got home, all my groceries and stuff were in the car. I just sat in the car and was just chilling. And I'm just scrolling on Instagram, and as I'm scrolling, the Ahmaud Arbery video popped up. And so I'm watching it now. And so I'm watching the video, and I'm seeing how he was running away from these dudes, and they just punted him. Man, I broke down. Like, I just broke down, boohoo, crying. Like, I was sobbing like a baby. And I don't know what it was about that video, but like that numbness that I had felt, that wall that I had put up, that cut straight through all of that. And I was just sobbing, man. I was like, no, you know? And so I remember thinking to myself, like, man, this must be what slaves felt like, to see that they had no power, like that it was nothing that they could do. And I remember thinking to myself, like, dang, man, this is like being a slave and watching a master rape your wife. Because, like, what you gonna do as a slave? Like, are you gonna beat the master? Like, what? You have to watch your woman be defiled like that, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know what I'm saying? And so I felt like that. And so when I came in, I was like, you know what? There has to be something I can do. Like, I don't have $1 million. I don't have any political influence, but there has to be something that I can do so I don't have to sit here and feel hopeless or helpless. And so, you know, I sat for a little bit, and then it dawned on me, like, nigga, you dope. And I was like, yeah, I have a camera, and I have a type of personality where I'll get on the road broke and I'll figure it out. Like, I'll go somewhere with no money and figure it out when I get there. So I was like, that's my superpower right there. I got a camera. And so when I thought about the fact that our history or our story is always being told by somebody else, it kind of made me realize the importance of Black people being out there with a camera, or Black people being out there to document, that's not attached to any major news or anything, that we can actually tell what's really going on. So that's pretty much what it was, man, is I went out and I started documenting Ahmaud Arbery's rallies. And by 2.5 weeks into documenting his stuff, George Floyd got killed. And then when I found out the news about George Floyd, it was like right around the time that news of Breonna Taylor was coming out. And I remember sitting up like, dang, there's 3 major like Black killings in this country right now. Which city do I go to? And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, and I broke down crying again. So I was like, it's crazy that there shouldn't be 3 things at once. And I turned on the TV, and I saw that Minneapolis was like on fire. So I was like, all right, I'm going to Minneapolis. So pretty much went to Minneapolis, and the rest was just, you know, I was in it then, you know.
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't follow E.Mackey, we'll leave his Instagram and all that in the description of this podcast. But I mean, this guy was literally out there in the trenches, in the field, with gas mask on, and like with all your camera equipment and your press hoodie, your press shirt, and you're just documenting, and it's just amazing. And you can probably go into more of some of the cities that you've been to, because I know you literally been all over the United States these past couple months. But it's really been amazing to sit there and, like you said, you're not attached to any news outlet or any company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you sharing your perspective of what's going on in America. And I'm just like, bro, if there's one Instagram account that I can look at and watch and like believe, what they're saying, it's you, because you're
I
actually
appreciate
in
that.
there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you in there, and it's not like you making up these little memes of like
Mm-hmm.
what's potentially going on. Like, no, you're in there with these people, like tear gas and all, and
Mm-hmm.
it just gives me the chills, man. But you can talk about some of the cities that you've been to, and maybe what was something that you learned the most on this journey that you've been through. And it's
Oh
still
man,
it's still a journey that you're going through, that we're all going through, but I want to learn something that
I'm
you've learned.
I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah.
glad you asked me that, because this is something that I really want to share with people. The very when I went to Minneapolis, right? I had like $800 that I could spend. So I'm like, okay, this should be enough for me to stay for like 2 days. Once I factor like a rental car
Mm-hmm.
and like hotel and all and food and all of that, I was like, $800 should be enough for me to stay for 2 days, and I got to get back home and I got to hustle, because at that time, I was doing the logo sale and all that stuff,
Yep, yep.
you know. So I had a lot of people that I had to get work done for, and it just like I didn't have the time, and I didn't really have uh the resources to just be out past 2 days. And so really what happened was I had $200, $250, something like that, $300. And I had loaned my aunt $700, the same aunt that had loaned me the money for the camera way back when. I had loaned her $700. And so I was like, oh shoot, that's right, I forgot that I had loaned Aunt Ruby some money. So I had hit her up and I was like, hey, do you have that money that I loaned you? And she was like, yeah, I can send you 500. And I was like, yeah, she had all the money, but I was like, you know what? Just send me 500. You can keep 200. And so she sent me the 500. So now I got like $800. My plan was to stay out for 2 days. And the night of the second day, the night before I was to check out of the hotel, a young lady hit me up in my DMs. I didn't know her. She was like, hey, I was just wondering, could I pay for your hotel? And I was like, well, my hotel's already been paid for. But at that point, I had already gotten like $1,500 of donations from people just asking me what's my Cash App. And I'm like, oh shoot, like I wasn't asking nobody for money. People were just saying, what's your Cash App? And just sending me money. So I was like, if you get me a couple more days, I have enough money that I could stay. And that'll work. Long story short, she gets me 3 more days in Minneapolis. By the time that time is up, people had sent me like $5,000. So then I stayed on the road. Like in the time I was at like 5 days I was in Minneapolis, I had gotten like $5,000 of unsolicited donations. People around the world that was just like, I want to send you money. So at that point, I was like, oh shoot, well, I don't have to go home. I could just stay out and keep doing this. The important thing about that is when I started looking at the people that were donating to me, I noticed that it was all women. And then I'm like, wow, it's all women. Then I'm checking my DMs and I'm getting all these women, particularly Black women that I don't even know, that's in my DMs like, hey, we're worried about you. I'm praying for you. I hope everything is okay. Let me know, can I send you some food? Like, I mean, I can't even put into words how they were covering me. You know what I'm saying? And so I sat back and I thought about, wow, here are all these women that I don't know that's trying to make sure I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know them. And it made me realize that when it was a women's march, I was quiet. I ain't say nothing to support them. I ain't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? I thought about like how many women was out, doing this work, and how many men were probably not sending them nothing. And then it made me realize like, yo, I need to be more of an ally to women, because like these women, where would I be without like women like holding me down? And so it just made me realize like as a man, I've greatly failed women. You know what I mean? Like, I have not given them the same type of protection, the same type of support, the same type of love and covering that they were showering on me. You know, and I've always been a dude that's been kind of conscious and aware. So I'm never like a dog type of dude, but there was still much more that I could do. And I realized that in that moment. And then as I was out at protests, I'm looking around and you see Asians, you see Hispanic people, you see Native American people, you see this breadth of different people that are out there with their own struggles, out there on the front lines fighting for us. But the one group that I saw so much loud, proud in the front was the LGBTQ community. And then I looked at them and I was like, yo, I ain't never speak up for them. And here they are speaking up for us, getting shot in the face with rubber bullets, getting maimed, getting hit by cars and killed out there for us. And so it made me realize, like, who the hell am I to come out here and say Black Lives Matter and chant and talk about how much I'm oppressed when all these people are oppressed and they put their oppression to the side to speak up for me. So sorry for the whole long story.
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
But the thing that I learned the most is the fact that there was work that I needed to do as an individual to stand up and be a voice for everybody that needs a voice, not just Black people, women, LGBTQ people, you know, the people that are immigrants trying to get over here that they keep locking up in cages. Any type of injustice I need to stand up for and I need to be vocal about. But I think the one thing that was the most important to me was just my relationship and interaction with women, you know, and just the fact that, like, we as men, if we could look at racism and understand, like, the subtleties and the nuances of racism and, like, the subtleties and the nuances of, like, white privilege, and then not look at the subtleties and nuances of, like, male privilege, man, you know what I'm saying? So I think that the biggest thing to me was just, I learned I need to be more of an advocate for women, like, really. Well, and other groups, but women is the thing that really stood out the most to me.
This stood out to you personally, yeah, absolutely. No, that's really powerful. And we're gonna start wrapping this up really soon. I just have a couple more questions.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask, from your perspective and you being out in the field with these people, what are some things we can do as a society to keep pushing forward? What are some of the things that you think we can do to keep pushing this, you know, what's going on, and keep fighting social injustice from your perspective?
I came up with, like, a saying since I've been out, because I get asked this question a lot, and it's do what sets your soul on fire. I think
Wow.
The difference with this movement and other movements is the fact that in this movement, everybody put their change in the jar. You know what I'm saying? If you were an artist, you were painting murals on the street or making signs. You know what I'm saying? If you were a stay-at-home person that was afraid to be out during COVID or to get shot at and tear gas, you were sending money to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, if you were a photographer, you were out there documenting. You know, if you were angry, you were throwing a brick through a window and setting that mother effer on fire. You know, everybody in this movement did their part, or what they thought they could do. Everybody contributed in the way that they best knew how to contribute. I think the problem at a lot of times, with a lot of movements, and it kind of started to happen with this one, but it didn't really fully happen, is that there are so many people that are critical of how somebody else moves. So, for example, if there's a riot and a building gets set on fire, a lot of times people are like, oh man, I'm with it, but I ain't with that building burning down, which some people said, but it didn't really matter that they said it. So all the energy is going toward fighting the way that somebody else is doing their contribution, instead of you contributing the way that you know how to contribute.
Right.
In this movement, everybody was so compelled that we didn't have time to criticize everybody else. Oh, and that's another thing that I learned, is that everybody's right. I used to feel like, why are we blocking traffic? That's stupid. I used to feel like, why are we burning down Walmart? What did Walmart have to do with it? I used to think all these things were dumb until I got out there and I saw it for myself, and I realized, oh, no, no, no. All of this is necessary. All of this is parts of the puzzle that come together to create the movement that we have. And so to answer your question of what I think that people can do to keep it moving forward is do what sets your soul on fire. If you know how to sew masks, send the mask to people. If you are, have a pretty good amount of money and a pretty stable life and don't want to be out there with the gas and all that type of stuff, you're just not comfortable, but you still want to contribute, send somebody some money. Like, it was people sending me money that put me in a position to be able to stay out and not have to worry about bills and be able to capture this imagery that now I think I'm making a historical book. You know what I'm saying? So there's value in you saying, okay, let me donate some money. If you're angry and you're tired and you just getting sick of being treated like whatever and you feel like something got to burn, go burn that mother effer down. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to make a sign or march, whatever it is that you feel like you need to do, whatever is inside of you that you feel like you can contribute it. Some people don't mind getting arrested. I'm not going to voluntarily get arrested. But some people don't mind that. If you're one of those people, go get arrested, because we need those people. Like, we need every single piece of this puzzle. What we don't need is people criticizing how other people contribute.
Amazing. So you mentioned it a couple times, the book that you're working on. You want to talk more about the book that you got going on, and when it should be done, how can people support, purchase it. I'm definitely picking one up because, like you said, this is a piece of history. It is history book. It is a history book. So it's just I know you put a couple previews on your Instagram story. It looks super dope already. I know your work. It's going to be a quality book. So go ahead and talk more about that.
Okay, yeah. So with me being out during the protests, it didn't take long for me to think about, holy crap, I've shot, like, at the time, I shot like 6,000 photos. Wow. And I'm like, holy crap, I got enough photos to make a photo book. And like, as a photographer, the photo book is like, I'm somebody now. I got a photo book. I'm legit. So I was like, I want to be legit. I want to do a photo book. So I was thinking that this was a perfect, this would be the perfect subject matter to make a photo book. And so as I started thinking about putting a book together, I realized that I had holes. Like, even though I had been to all these different places, I couldn't tell a full story with the content that I had. And so, I was trying to think of how can I tell a story with what I had. But moreover, how can I make this something that was beneficial to everybody? So, I do everything on my own. So I was like, I'm gonna print it on my own and everything. So I went to my printer and I found out how much it would cost to produce. And I'm like, dang, I don't got that much money. So I did a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe campaign to raise the money. GoFundMe campaign goes crazy. I'm like, yes. But then I started looking at who was donating, and it was like half and half. It was like half the people donating were white. And so I'm like, whoa, okay. Then I started getting all these messages from people talking about how much they appreciated it and like all these encouraging things. And I'm like, wow, people are really looking forward to this book. It's a lot of responsibility. So when I saw that it was a lot of white people that were donating, I realized there is a large bit of history that is not universally known in the white community that more Black people know, that leads to how we feel or why we feel like how we feel. So I was like, if I'm going to show all these protest images, I need to provide context as to why we feel how we feel. And people need to know that this didn't start with George Floyd. So I started doing some research and some digging to present some history to people so that they can kind of have context as to the protest. And as I started doing the digging, I realized that I didn't know any of this information that I was learning. Like, I ain't know none of it. And as I was digging, I found myself going down a rabbit hole, and like 3 weeks into research, I had so much history that I had never heard of that I was like, it would be a sin not to put this in this book. So the book kind of evolved from a photo book of just the protest into, this is legit a account of what Black people have been going through from 1619 when our feet first hit the soil till August 28th, like a few weeks ago. Like it's a legit timeline of massacres, like killings, lynchings, like it is legit. I ain't never see a Black history account like this. You know what I mean? And so that's what it became now. So but the way that it's put together is it's still a photo book. So you're seeing all these historical photos, you're seeing all these photos that I've shot, and you're getting the information in like little paragraph or two tidbits that's like where it's easy to digest, and it's not like reading a textbook, you know? But yeah, so that's the book.
So when should we expect it to be completed? I know you're working on it.
Well, I'm expecting today is Friday, right? Yeah. I wanted to have the book done by Wednesday, but like it's just so much information that I'm still chipping away. And I have an editor, and my editor's like, she's scrambling to try to keep up with me. She's been editing as I go. So instead of putting a whole book together and then spending months editing, I'm like, nope, I don't have time to do that. I'm gonna pay you to come behind me. So as I write, you edit. And so she's been really great about it, but I work so fast and I don't sleep at night, so she'll wake up to like a monstrous load. So it's looking more like I should have the book done and laid out by Sunday or Monday, prayerfully. So within like the next 3 to 4 days. And then I'm going to send it to print, and the printing process takes about 10 days. So the book should be done in like the next 3 weeks.
Wow, amazing. I'm really excited for it, man. I'm definitely going to pick one up. And I think, like I said, you're making history. You're part of history. You know, that's something that I know my wife and I would definitely appreciate, because when we have kids, our kids are going to be Afro-Latino as well. And I'm big on knowing my history and where I come from. So is my wife, and we want our kids to know, you know, what their ancestors have been through. And I know that's going to be a huge help to doing that and to educating them, not just, you know, having them going to school and reading their history book. Like let's read something that we created, you know what I'm saying? So
exactly,
can definitely appreciate that for sure.
And it was I'm actually designing it with kids in mind. I mean, the content is super graphic, and like it's super strong content in there. So it's not like you don't want to show this to like a 7-year-old. I mean, you could, but I mean, you probably want to flip some pages because it's burned bodies and it's all types of like really graphic stuff in there, and like strong language from protests on signs. But it was designed with, as I'm working on the book, the one thing I constantly thought about was there is someone that is pregnant right now that in 20 to 30 years from now, that child that's in that womb won't know what was happening right now. So they need some type of account of what happened. You know what I mean? And in addition to that, knowing how we got educated, we didn't learn any of the stuff that led up to this. So there should be something in place for that child that's in the womb right now to be able to pick up and understand exactly what happened here and how we got here. So, I mean, the fact that you're thinking about like showing it to kids is like, that's exactly what I prayed that it would be used for. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amazing. So we can start wrapping this thing up, man. I always ask my guests to leave one last piece of advice for the audience. It can be business related, life, something about social. It can be literally anything. If you can just leave one last piece of advice for the audience, and we'll end it on that note.
Okay, I think my one last piece of advice, or the one last piece of encouragement that I would say is that the world needs your brilliance. So don't be afraid to start whatever business it is that you want to start. Don't be afraid to create whatever piece of art that you want to create. Don't be afraid to stand and use your voice. The world needs your brilliance. And I think that everybody's brilliant. And I think that what happens is we allow ourselves to let other people train it out of us. You know what I mean? But you can't do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, what I'm doing came from a frustration of like, wow, man, like I don't, what I'm doing with the book, I don't want to feel helpless anymore. You know what I mean? And so to me, it started off as like, I'm gonna just go out here for a couple days and post it to my Instagram. And it turned into this thing where now I'm getting people from like literally people from like 5 countries just in the last 24 hours have hit me up to donate to try to get a book. 5 different countries. And so that one idea that I had to contribute something that I felt like I could offer, even though I didn't think it would be that big, is now looking like something that people are really valuing that might actually touch, you know what I'm saying, the culture. And so what I'm saying is that every last one of us has that power inside of us. And I feel like we should all do our best to kind of tap into it. So, you know, the world needs your brilliance. So go out there and try. Just try. Even if you think you're not going to work it out, even if you don't know how you're going to do it, even if you don't have the money, just do it, because we need the brilliance that you bring to the table.
Boom. I love it. I love it. Do you want to leave, you want to tell the people where they can find you, you know, where they can possibly purchase the book, your website, anything? Let the people know. I'll definitely put all this information in the description of this podcast so they can reach out to you, but let the people know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me most easily on Instagram at E.Mackey Creates, is EMACKEY Creates. I'm pretty good about getting back to my DMs for the most part. It might be a little slow sometimes, but I try to get back to all of them. You know, appropriate links will be in the bio of the Instagram. So whatever's cooking at that time, whatever website is cooking at that time, the links will be there. In the coming days, I already have the site up. I just got to do a little tweaks to it, but you can go to blackcreatorcollective.com, and then that's where you can find out about the book. That's where you can like purchase a book or pre-order a book. The infrastructure is already there to get a book if you want one, but I just got to go through and kind of fix it, you know, tidy it up a little bit.
Cool. Well, man, I truly appreciate your time and you coming on the podcast. With that being said, it's your boy Chris, and I'll catch you guys next week.